Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Picard.
Shabbat Shalom.
Glad everybody is here. Before we do anything, we want to do like we always do. We want to give all praises, respect, and honor to the Father of Yahuwah for sending his ultimate love gift, Yahusha HaMashiach, the atoning sacrifice for the nation of Yashra'al. All right, that's very important. We want to start off with a scripture. We always want to give praise and thanks to the Father, the creator of all things. We want to start off with the book of Talmid, or the book of Psalms. And we're going to go with chapter 100, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5. All right, 1 through 5. Book of Talmid, the book of Psalms. It says, "Make a joyful noise unto Yahuwah, all you lands. Serve Yahuwah with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know you that Yahuwah, he is Elohim. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people." That's very important. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and to his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him. All right? Be thankful unto him, and bless his set-apart name. For Yahuwah is good. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. All right? That is a very powerful scripture. That's one of my favorites. Actually, back in, I might have been about 8 or 9 years old. This is the first scripture that my grandmother had me to memorize. I had to get up before the congregation in the church. I had to memorize this letter for letter, and it took me a couple of hours to remember that, but I still remember the scripture to this very day. All right. I want to do a quick recap. All right, of what happened last week. All right, it's just a quick recap because I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable. All right, everybody's comfortable here. Things kind of went a little south, I believe, last week. All right. You wasn't here, but yeah, yeah, things went a little south last week. But again, we're going to start off like this, like I did last week. The title of today's show is called "From Student to Talmid." The word Talmid means disciple. All right, plural would be Talmidim, and the word Talmida actually means a female disciple. This is where we're going at here. And there was a scripture that we brought out, was the book of Exodus. All right, the 21st chapter. And the only reason why I brought that scripture out is because there's a lot of hoopla that's going on Facebook, YouTube, and Debate Talk for You. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Debate Talk for You. And it was on the topic of polygyny. And that word is kind of like taboo in Israel. But again, I asked the females how did they feel about what was going on in Exodus 21st chapter, and I asked the males how did they feel about it. And everybody who gave a response, nobody gave a wrong answer. All right, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I was not teaching, on polygyny last week. I taught on from student to Talmid to Talmidah. All right, trying to show the importance of both men and women in the congregation. That's how everything was supposed to have been going, but again, it kind of went south. Yeah, I guess I touched a couple of nerves. And I pray that this doesn't, this not deterring brothers and sisters from coming to the congregation, because last week this time, it was jam-packed in here. It was jam-packed, so things got a little heated a little bit last week. But the way that I teach is this way. We must look at the scriptures from a Hebraic perspective. If you look at the scriptures from any other perspective, you're going to miss the point. Guaranteed. And so what I did last week is that I tried to expound a little bit on the word student. All right, I asked brothers and sisters, what is a student from a Hebraic perspective based upon what we're trying to accomplish here? We're trying to accomplish here a Talmid, a disciple, and we're trying to accomplish here a Talmidah, female disciples. And I got a couple of answers, and my response was that from a Hebraic perspective, a student is a man or a woman. This is the definition I gave, nothing has changed. A man or woman who is ready to denounce all Western concepts, ideas, and start afresh. That's what a student must do. Because we've been taught how to think according to Western society. And again, once you start to read the scriptures from the Hebraic perspective, you're going to see things a lot different. Then I went into what is a Talmid and what's a Talmida, disciples. A disciple is one who accepts all of Torah, all of it, all right? There's no other way of getting around it. If you're going to be a Talmidin or a Talmidah in this walk here, you must accept and abide by all of the rules and regulations that's set up in the scriptures, all of it. If you can't do that, then you can't be a Talmid or a Talmidah, and you can't be a student. You can't hold on. You can't board the fence here. You know, half of you are still in Western society, and some of you still want to try to follow the Hebraic perspective. It's not going to work. We talked about a disciple accepts all of Torah. He mimics Torah. He assists us now in spreading the Torah. And we even went into an acronym here. We talked about, everybody's familiar with this, the acronym TNK. What that means, you have to follow all of the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. So this is Torah, the Netavim, and the Ketuvim. It's going to be very, very important for us to get a better understanding of what's going on. Then we talked about, marriages. All right? Marriages are very, very important. The scriptures is talking about a marriage from Genesis to Revelation. And what happened now is that last week, I guess things kind of went south is because what is a marriage according to a Hebraic perspective? And what's happening now was that we got a lot of responses that, you know, it was a marriage is, it just got crazy. It really got crazy, but this is the definition. When you look up the word marriage or the word kibbushim in Hebrew, when you're talking about a betrothal period and you're talking about marriage, the word marriage in Hebrew is never, absolutely never singular. Never. And so what I was hearing from last week, and again, I'm not here to knock anybody's definition, but when you look at marriage from a Hebraic perspective, it's always plural. Not based upon how we see it here in Western society. Listen, you know what? It's the man and the woman, and you have children. It's a little bit more defined than that when we look at this now from a Hebraic perspective. And this is the reason why we even went into this Hebrew character last week. That word bet, okay, which means house, or bayit means house. When you look at that word in a Torah scroll, this letter right here is the biggest letter. This is the first letter in the Hebrew Torah scroll. But now, we also brought out too now was that this is not the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. This is the first letter in the Hebrew scroll. The first letter in the Hebrew scroll, when we look at the classical Hebrew, would be this letter here, would be the aleph. All right? And so the aleph and the bet together, you would have the word ab, which means father. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Okay, you have the whole word bereshit, and it explains in the words bereshit where we have now the Father, the Son, and the whole creation story. Just that simple word there, bereshit. But the reason why this bet is so big because it's talking about a house. All right? And the house is, the bet is big is because the house is about expansion. Is everybody following me so far? Okay. It's just that, again, the Western mindset has destroyed everything. And we're going to show in the scriptures where this is about building. And I know that a lot of us have been scarred and hurt in this walk here, but again, the walk still has to continue. I want to go to the book of Yashra'al, the 9th chapter. Let's start there. So we get a better handle of what's going on here so that there's no misunderstandings about a Hebraic walk. Matthew the 9th chapter, verses 14 to 15. No, let's go to 9 and 15. We can start at 9 and 15. And as Yahusha passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting. That word sitting is going to be very important because it's a Hebrew idiom. We will go back to it a little bit later. But this man, Matthew, he was sitting at the receipt of custom And he, the Messiah, said unto him, follow me. So what we have here now is that the Messiah is actually choosing a disciple. All right, he's choosing a disciple, and that's very important. When we come into this walk, it is our responsibility, okay, we're going to show in the scripture that you first have to be a student, and you have to leave off every single thing in the world. All of that has to go. So the Messiah says, follow me, and he arose and he followed him. And it came to pass, as the Messiah sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. So the word that we want to capitalize here is the word disciples, and this word disciple is Talmid, which is singular. Talmidim would actually be plural. So while they're under the tutorship of the Messiah, they will be learning. All right? They will be learning. Yes?
Matthew, what again?
That's Matthew, the 9th chapter, and we're now in verse 10. Verse 10. And what we're going to be doing again today, this is a process. In order for you to become a Talmidin or a Talmidah, you first have to be a student. Verse 11. And when the Pharisees, all right, saw it, they said it to his disciples. Because the Pharisees had disciples and the Messiah had disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when the Messiah heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician. So right now, we know the reason why the Messiah chose Talmidim, but first he needed to be students, because he came to heal the sick. The nation of Yashra'al during the time of the Messiah's ministry was in a very miserable state. They were not following the law, statutes, and commandments, because the ones that was actually sitting in Moses' seat were the scribes and the Pharisees. So now, when he said that they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick, the nation of Yashra'al collectively as a people were sick. This explains now the redemptive role of the Messiah, why the Messiah had to come, why he had to die and resurrect for the nation of Yashra'al. Verse 12. Now we read verse 12, go to verse 13, we can read down to 15. But go you and learn what that means. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. For I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Then came to him the disciples of Yahushua, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but the disciples fast not? Verse 15, which is very important. And Yahushua said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and they shall fast. So again, we have a situation where the Messiah is choosing his disciples, and his disciples now, their role is now to teach the Torah. All of the Torah. All of it. I then went into, last week, we went into, I'll write this down, just in case anybody wants to look at it again. This word right here, A-V-O-T. Chapters 1, verse 4. And this is in the Mishnah. All right? And what we're going to do now is show a parallel with what's going on in the book of Avot, in the Mishnah, with chapter 1, verse 4. And we're going to tie that in with the book of Luke, the 10th chapter, verse 38 to 42. But I'm going to read now Avot 1 and 4. It says, and the word Avot just means the ethics of our fathers. Ethics of our fathers. It says, let your home be a meeting house for the sages. Again, let your home be a meeting house for the sages. And cover yourself with the dust of their feet, and drink in their words thoroughly. Now we're going to show the parallels with this in the Brit Hadashah in Luke the 10th chapter, verses 38 and 42. Did anybody understand what I just read in the book of Avot 1 and 4? One more time. Let your home be a meeting house, all right, for the sages, and cover yourself with the dust of their feet, and drink in their words thoroughly. Luke the 10th chapter. Watch how now all of this plays in together, because it is very important that we listen real close to the parables that the Messiah set out for us. Luke, the 10th chapter, verse 38. This is just a quick recap, 38. '42. Now remember, keep in mind that I talked about Hebrew marriages is plural, never singular. Now watch some of the examples that we're going to see with the parables that the Father's showing us through his son Yashra'al HaMashiach. Listen real close now. And it came to pass, as they, the Messiah and his Talmidim, they entered into a certain village, and a certain woman, singular, named Martha, received him. All right, she received the Messiah, entered her house, and she had a sister. So now we have Martha, which is one woman, and we have Miriam. We have two women here. Martha receives the Messiah and the Talmidim into the house. And so when we see where he says she received them into her house, again, it's just like a metaphor where if you're receiving the Messiah, you're willing to accept now the Torah. All right, so we have to see the parallels of what's going on here. And a certain woman named Martha received him into her house, and she had a sister called, I'll put Mary in there, but the word actually is Mary. M-A-R-Y, Mary. And she had a sister called Mary, and she sat at the Messiah's feet and heard his words. So when you go back now to the book of Avot, which is in the Mishnah, it says, let your home be a meeting house with the sages, and cover yourself with the dust of their feet, and drink in their words thoroughly. Watch what happens. And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at the Messiah's feet, and heard his words. But Martha was cumbered about much serving, and came to him and said, Yahuwah, or in this situation here, sir, or Adon, or master, doest thou not care that my sister Mary, all right, do thou not care that my sister hath left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. Watch how the Messiah answers Martha. And the Messiah answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen her good part, which shall not be taken away from her. So is everybody able to see the parallels here about these two women? One woman here, Martha, her cares is about the cares of the world. She receives the Messiah, but again, she's on the fence. She doesn't really want to let go. She's busy, she's serving, she's doing other things. But when Mary sees the Messiah, she falls at the Messiah's feet and she wants to listen to what the Messiah has to say. Exactly, so this is what she's doing. That's the reason why I went into the book of Avot here, and I read it again. Let your home be a meeting house for the sages, and cover yourself with the dust of their feet, and drink in their words thoroughly. This is what actually Mary did. Now to show you now the parallels between Northern and Southern Kingdom, because with these two sisters here, you can also see now Northern and Southern Kingdom. Northern and Southern Kingdom. We talked about this last week. And this is the reason why, I guess things got a little crazy last week, is because this whole thing about two women is a real big issue. But it's always been about two women, and even more than that from the very beginning. And we try to teach about Israel's foundation, how she began, and what's going to happen in the end. When you look at the Strong's number 3136, this is in the Greek, and the Strong's number 3137, both of these words means idolatrous, wicked, whoremongering, both of them. Martha means rebellion, Mary means rebellion. This was actually the state of the nation of Yashra'al when he came into Jerusalem. Northern and Southern, actually, Northern Kingdom had already gone into captivity in 321 BC under the Syrians, but you did have some stragglers of Israelites still in Southern Kingdom. But these two women were considered rebellious. I could not, for the whole, because the whole doesn't need a physician. I come from the sick. And the nation of Yashra'al at this time was sick. These two women, all right, are at odds with one another. One woman now, her carries it into the world. This woman right here, she's now attentively now listening to the words of the Messiah. This also shows too now is that this woman was already off into the world. She already gone into captivity, and Southern Kingdom was still, for the most part, still intact during the time of the Messiah's ministry. So again, you see the parallels here now. These are two women fighting basically for the attention of the Messiah. If we were to look at this now, even in layman's terms, every single brother here is considered, every single brother and every sister here is considered a bride. You're fighting for the attention of the Messiah. You want to have a personal relationship with the bride and with the groom. You do. All of us do. And there's maybe about 15 of us in here today. So that's the reason why I'm bringing out that this is about expansion. This is about more than one woman. But again, I'm not teaching any brother, all right, to go out and get more wives. That's not the basis of this class here today. I'm talking about starting from a student, graduating from a Talmid or to a Talmida. But in order to do that, you have to accept all of the Torah. You have to. A quick little recap. There was also a situation that came up. Well, there's one particular brother. He said, well, the only thing I need to do is just follow the 10 Commandments. All right, there were some issues with that. I don't have a problem with the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are the 10 Commandments. But the 10 Commandments don't get into detail with a lot of certain things. And I want you to even talk about another Hebrew word. Is called pardes. P-A-R-D-E-S. All right, and this, when you start to look at this word here, you start to break down some of these words here. Where you have the P just means the Peshat level. And excuse me.
Like with the 10 Commandments.
Yes.
It'd be more like a kid level, like you would deal with your children, knowing because they haven't been through life yet, so they ain't got no experience. So how one would be like the house rules. First, as the foundation.
Absolutely, okay.
And then as they grow, that's when the other one they can understand and actually apply them all.
Exactly.
Right.
You're 100% correct. And this is the reason why they have this thing, the way that they like for people to study the scriptures, they have like a Peshat level. The Peshat level is just a plain level of reading the scriptures, but there's nothing wrong with the plain level. All right? That's the literal reading of the scriptures. For example, when it came to pass that he was praying in a certain place, it means just that. That's the plain level. Then you have what they call, the arbor represents the Remez level. The Remez level now is like a graduating stage from the Peshat level to the Remez level, where now you started to look at, well, what else is going on with the story? All right, so you start to look at like little hints and clues. And then you have what they call the deep represents the Drash. And the Drash level will be like another layer of understanding the scriptures, where now it's like going through like first grade, second grade, third grade, all up into a scholar type of study. When you look at a study the Pardes level, which is again the P represents the Peshat level, the R represents the Remez level, the D represents the Drash level, and the S would actually represents the Sod level, the Sod level, and that's the mystery of the science of it. When you start to get into Hebrew words, you start to get into things like, what does the word Mary, Martha mean? You start to get in, what is a Talmid and a Talmidah? You start to actually look at the scriptures from a Hebraic perspective. All right? And just to prove some of that, if we go to the book of, this is the book of Proverbs. Just double check it. Because I want to make sure that everything that I'm saying here today, we can prove it, so that there's no misunderstandings about anything here. When you go to the book of Proverbs, or the book of Mishlei here, the 25th chapter, just to show now the Peshat, the Remez, the Drash, and the side level here. It says in the book of Proverbs, I'm going to read only verse 2. It says, it is the esteem of Elohim to conceal. And the word conceal means to hide, all right? So it is the esteem of Yahuwah to conceal a thing. All right, that word thing just means, like a matter. But the honor of kings is to search out the matter. So when you start to now read the scriptures and you're going to now start to search out these things, this is now when you start to get a higher level of understanding about the scriptures. And so again, we talked about the 10 Commandments. For example, the 10 Commandments is not going to tell you about the dietary law. So if a person told me, so listen, I just want to follow the 10 Commandments, fine. But when you start to really look at it, how would you explain the dietary law just from looking at the 10 Commandments? You couldn't do it. So it's going to take a little bit more than just knowing the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments, again, are fine. It's nice. If a man had an issue, a running issue, okay, gonorrhea, because it's talked about even in the scriptures when you go to the book of Leviticus. What is now the process of calling him unclean, and what is he when he's clean again? That's talked about in the book of Leviticus. That's not explained in the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter. Women having their need-outs and things like that. There's a process now. How long she's unclean, but what happens now when the 7 days goes over? What is the process then? It's not explained here in Exodus, the 20th chapter. He's talking about the 10 Commandments. What about the feast days? All right, it tells you now 3 times a year all males must report to Jerusalem. Where are you going to find that now in the 10 Commandments? Right. This is the reason why, again, there's different levels to read in the scriptures. We just want to make sure that we have a nice handle on everything. All right, and when you have that nice handle on everything, you can now graduate from a student to a Talmid or a Talmida. Like the brother said, you know what, it's like having your children and you're teaching your children the basics. The basics are fine. But it gets to the point where you need to graduate and move on to the next stage so you can actually be a Talmid or a Talmida. All right, so what we did now is that we showed now that these 2 women here, Martha and Mary, when you look up the Strong's Concordance numbers again, which was 3136, I believe it was 3137, their names mean rebellious. And then now to tie this in, because we just don't want to leave off with one scripture, we want to make sure we always have a supporting scripture to back up everything that we're saying. Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom are 2 women. 2 women. We talked about last week where we have now 2 women living in one house. 2 women. We have, remember, Ephraim was not amongst his brethren. Joseph now had Ephraim and Manasseh while he was living up in Egypt. And so now we have the situation where Reuben was actually the firstborn. I mean, there's so much to it. We're going to take our time with this. Ephraim got the firstborn blessing. Reuben lost his firstborn blessing because Reuben was actually born to Leah. We can even show parallels, okay, between Leah and Rachel with Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. For example, we had Leah, all right? Leah gave birth to a firstborn son, Reuben. The firstborn gets an inheritance. She also gave birth to another very prominent son, which was Judah. That's right. Okay, Judah got the staff and he got the authorship. He was the one that was in authority. The scepter should not depart from Judah until the Messiah comes. Leah also she gave birth to a Levite. All right? So she had 3 prominent sons here. Reuben, who's the firstborn. She had Judah, and she had Levi. Now, watch this. Rachel gave birth to Joseph. All right, Joseph. So you now have these 2 women bringing forth certain children. Certain children here. And this is where we start to get into bloodline. Reuben had beef with his father Jacob, all right? Because Jacob loved Rachel. But the father was always showing Jacob that, listen, you know what, your first wife, we already know how the whole situation went with those switcheroo that Laban did. But Leah was somebody that was important because she had, again, these three prominent sons here. And when Rachel died, Jacob actually took his tent on with I think it was Bilhah. He didn't go back now to Leah, and so this now had this rift and beef between the two. And so what happened now, when he went up into his father's couch now, it talks about how Reuben lost his firstbornship. Now, when that happened now is that you have now Rachel's son, Joseph, taking on that firstbornship through the son of Joseph. Because the tribe of Joseph is also considered northern kingdom. Mm-hmm. So there was always a problem with two women, Leah and Rachel, okay, Mary and Martha, and we're going to show some more here, okay, because the story just so deep. Mm-hmm. It is so deep because, again, when we truly look at the scriptures, if you can't find the Messiah, okay, within 3 to 4 verses, or the nation of Israel within 3 to 4 verses in any chapter, you need to read that chapter all over again. There's something that you missed. Something that you missed. Because everything that the Messiah spoke means something. Every single thing. This is the reason why we talked about last week. You can't read this book right here the way that you read an Ebony magazine or any other book that you might read. This is your history here. Alright? Watch this, alright? You're going to go to the book of Ezekiel, Yashra'al, the 23rd chapter. And again, we're talking about becoming a student to a Talmid, to a Talmida, and we're talking about this house here, okay, this bet or bayit, and we're talking about these two women here. What you need to do to become a Talmid or Talmida, you need to follow all of the scriptures, all of it, because again, you never know what the Messiah might need for you to do in order to push this ministry here. And one more thing too is that what I see with our people is that when it comes to the scriptures, there's things that they can and they can't do. And I was telling my Isha this last week is that our people are like this. Listen, you know what? Let's leave it to the next generation. Yeah, let's just leave it to the next generation. You know that something needs to be done because you see the nature of our people, what's happening amongst us. But we said, listen, you know what? Let the next generation handle that. You know what? I can't deal with that right here. Can't deal with that part. Can't deal with it. Well, watch how this thing goes again, all right? This is just a quick recap of what happened last week. Ezekiel, the 24th chapter, we'll start with verse 1. And the word of Yahuwah came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women. All right? 23. Oh, excuse me, 23. Excuse me. 23 and 2. Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother. And they, plural, committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teats of their virginity. And the names of them were Olah, the elder, and Olibah, her sister. And they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names. Samaria is Aholah. Samaria is representing, right, exactly, House of Israel, Northern Kingdom. And Jerusalem, Southern Kingdom, Olibah. And Oholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted in her lovers on the Assyrians, her neighbors. And so it just goes on here now. It's just I wanted to show the parallels again with Mary and Martha, and with Oholah and Olibah. You have the same definitions. Mm-hmm. Both of these women were adulterous women, and they're representing Northern and Southern Kingdom, the House of Israel.
I kind of got a feeling where you're going with this, because I mean, from my studies, I see that the northern and southern kingdom is the two wives of the Most High.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they live in the north-south axis. And but the same way with Abraham, you know, he had his wives in the north-south axis. He was in the north with Sarah, and Keturah was in the south.
Exactly.
And it's like that with a couple of forefathers have gone before us too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
No,
I'm saying.
no.
Oh, okay, yeah. What we're saying is that you can't miss.
Yeah, I'm shopping legs.
You can't miss. It is all there in the scriptures. And so again, the burden of proof is always going to be on the next person, showing that how this whole thing started out, and how there's always about two women, but these two women need to get along. This is the reason why you see the story of the two sticks. The two sticks must come together. All right, there must be a reunification of both northern and southern kingdom. There must be a reunification. Shalom, sis. What I want to talk about now, all right, is the seriousness of the walk. So before you want to be a student, you're going to have to really consider and ask yourselves, do you really want to walk this walk? All right? I talk to my Yashra'al a whole lot. And I say, listen, you know what? As you continue to come here, and a lot of things you already know, but we just probably expound on it just a little bit more. I tell my Yashra'al this all the time. I said, listen, you know what? If a lot of us really knew what these scriptures was about, whether or not you would still want to walk this walk or not. Okay, because it's very detailed, extremely detailed. And a lot of times, once you start to find out the intricacies of it, a lot of people don't want to walk this walk. And they feel more comfortable becoming Christians and Baptists and things like that, because it's not really asking too much from you.
Right.
You know, it's the easy way out.
Right.
Okay, but this walk here, when we see brothers like Jeremiah, Hosea, all these guys here, they walk this walk to the death. When you walk this walk here, you're saying now that you're now against the world.
That's right.
This is what you're saying. And if you're now against the world's going to look at you as an enemy.
That's right.
That's what's going to happen. Obama said, listen, whoever is not for us is against us.
That's right.
You're against homosexuality, all right? You're against Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, all those things you're against. So when you send your kids to school now, they're going to look at your children and say, well, listen, you know what? Why don't your children celebrate these pagan holidays here? All right? So you looked at now different. And the scriptures tell you now is that the adversary is coming against those who keep the law, statutes, and commandments. That's what he wants. All right? And the reason why he wants you, because you're either a Talmid and a Talmida, because what's going to happen now is that you are going to now teach your children right from wrong, which is now going to be against what society teaches, so now you become an enemy. All right? Luke, the 19th chapter. Luke, the 19th chapter. I'm doing a little reading here. Yeah, that's what I want. And the Messiah entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see the Messiah, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before and climbed up onto a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when the Messiah came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said to Zacchaeus, make haste, come down, for today I must abide at your house. And he made haste, and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying, this, that he is gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the master, behold, master, the half of my goods I gave to the poor. and I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restored him fourfold. And the Messiah said unto him, this day is salvation come to this house, for as much as he also is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and save that which was lost. And as he heard these things, he added and spoke a parable. All right, he spoke a parable, because he was near to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of Elohim should immediately appear. Watch this parable now. He said, therefore, a certain noble man went into a far country, and to receive for himself a kingdom to return. And he called his 10 servants, all right? His 10 servants. Those 10 servants, all right, is going to be very important, because those 10 servants can also represent northern kingdom there. All right? And so now he's sending now, remember, he has students. These students now become Talmidim. And now this whole thing is about reunifying Martha and Mary. And Martha and Mary is representing northern and southern kingdom. We went into the book of Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter there. Those two women there is also making a reference to northern and southern kingdom. But watch this now. And he delivered 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a message after him, saying, we would not have this man to reign over us. Now, during the time of the Messiah's ministry, the Pharisees were in office at the time. All right, the Pharisees were there, and the Pharisees did not want to see the Messiah reign, because they said, listen, the nation is starting to go after this man. And if we don't do something quick about this situation here, we're going to lose our place amongst the Romans. Very important. So they did not want to see the coming of the Messiah, even though when we go to the book of John, I believe it's the 10th chapter, where it talks about Caiaphas said, listen, it is expedient for us that one man should die. All right? And it said that Caiaphas was not speaking of himself, but he was speaking of the Messiah. And so now he said, and not for us alone, but for those that are scattered abroad. So again, we're talking about two women. But they must come together in one accord in order to now reunify, as the scriptures tell us that it must be reunification. Excuse me. But the citizens hated him and sent a message after him, saying, we would not have this man to reign over us. Verse 15. And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given money. Now this money now is a treasure, it is a gift. Each and every one of us here has a gift. All right? In order to become a Talmidim, you have to become a student, and we have now here the Messiah now giving his students now money, who are now Talmidims. Now, the first saying, let's go back to 15. And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom's already set, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Gained by trading. The Messiah gave each and every one of you a gift. How you will now utilize your gift is going to be now explained in the next couple of verses. Then came the first saying, Master, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. So he gets a reward, because he took his talent, he worked his talent, all right, and so now he gets a reward, 10 cities. Talmid of the Messiah said in the book of Matthew, they said, listen, we have given up everything for you, mother, brother, father, sister. What is it now for us that we are giving up everything for you? And to you it is given to judge, to sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So there is a reward for this walk here. Verse 18, and the second came, saying, Master, thy pound had gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Master, behold, here is thy pound. The same gift that he gave him now, he's giving him the same thing back to him. And another came and said, Master, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin. He didn't do anything with it. For I fear thee, because thou art an austerious man. Thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. Watch the response. And the Messiah said unto him, out of thy own mouth will I judge you, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austerious man, taken up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required my own with usury? He said unto him that stood by, take for him the pound, and give it to him that have 10 pounds. And they said unto him, Master, he hath 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which hath shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that he hath shall be taken away, taken from him. Now watch verse 27, because it's very, very powerful now. The Messiah says, but those my enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring them here and slay them before me. All right, so this is how serious this whole thing is. When you take up this walk here, you're talking about you want to follow the Torah, and the Father has given you a gift to teach these laws and statutes and commandments, and you don't do it, the consequences can be death. You have something back here?
Yeah, I like, this is one of my favorite parables, and you said something very important, that there's a reward for walking this walk. And that's why it's very important that when we come into the knowledge, the more we learn, that we try to educate others and bring them in.
Exactly.
Because you see, he rewards these people. He says those that the one that increased and brought in 5 pounds, he made them rule over how many cities?
5 cities.
5 cities. And we keep forgetting when it comes to the Father's kingdom and Yashra'al ruling, that, you know, Jerusalem is the land that he placed his name over. But his kingdom occupies the entire world. And so when his government is established, who you think he's going to use to orchestrate his laws and stuff?
Exactly.
It's us.
Right.
So that's why it's important that we try to gain or win as many as we can to encourage them to come into this walk. It's important that we share the word with others. And you know, and I was going to make a suggestion at the end of your lesson anyway, and I'll do it now since I'm talking. You know, we coming out for Shabbat. You got certain brothers in here, they always inviting people, and a lot of people come through there. Everybody should be inviting somebody. We should be just coming sitting up here for Shabbat for ourselves, and we need to make it a mission every Shabbat when we leave out of here. We're going to call somebody during the week, or call multiple people, and see can we invite somebody, bring somebody out. This is not just for us. You know, the Most High people are here, we need to start communicating, reaching out toward others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a very serious walk here. Let's go to one more parable pertaining to the same thing here. Let's go to the book of Matthew, the book of Matthew, the 20th chapter. We talk about the kingdom here. When we're looking at now the responsibility of the Talmidim. These Talmidim are given, they have a responsibility to go out to the world and to teach the Torah, especially to the 12 tribes of Israel. That's going to be very important. Let's start with verse 1. We'll read down a little bit here. For the kingdom of Shamayim, or heaven, is likened to a man that is a householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers. And this is what's happening down here. Every single brother and sister in here now is a laborer. Okay? This is the hire. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into the vineyard. You're going out into the world because now you're no longer a student. You're now either a Talmid or a Talmida teaching the Torah right here. So you're now out into the vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into the vineyard, verse 3. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the workplace. This is going to be very important because we start to look at Hebrew idioms. The third hour, anybody know what time of the day that is?
9 o'clock.
Right, 9 o'clock. Watch how this whole thing plays out. We have 9 o'clock a.m. Everybody agree? Anybody need any further explanation on that? Okay, so again, he went about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said unto them, Go you also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way. Again he went out about the sixth hour. The sixth hour will bring us into what time? 12 o'clock. Okay? This is now noon. Watch how this whole thing comes into play. But again, you will only be able to see this now when you start to look at, we're talking about the Peshat, the Remez, the Drash, and the Sod level, because there's a whole lot that's going on in the scriptures here. Again, you can't read this the way that you read any other book. This is something totally different here. And he went about the sixth hour and the ninth hour, and the ninth hour is what time? 3. Right, so we're talking about 3 o'clock p.m. around that time here. So right now, we already see now the morning and the evening oblations, right? We already see that here. We already see now what happened at the death of the Messiah, what happened at 12 noon. The darkness upon the face of the earth at 12 o'clock. And from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, you know that around 3 o'clock p.m. is when the Messiah gave up the set-apart spirit. But watch what else is going on with the story here. And about the 11th hour, what time is the 11th hour? Right about 5 o'clock p.m. So what do you see so far what's happening? We have 9 o'clock a.m., we have 12 o'clock noon, we have 3 o'clock p.m., and around 5 o'clock p.m.
Sounds like my work day.
Yes, it kind of rough. Okay, we're going to read on, it'll come to you. And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing idle. And he said unto them, Why stand you here all the day idle? They said unto him, Because no man hath hired us. He said unto them, Go you also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that you shall receive. So when even was come, all right, so what time is that? So we're talking about any time after when the sun falls completely below on the horizon. So let's say this is now, say the sun went down at 6 o'clock, this is now about 6 o'clock, even, all right? Because again, we talked about 12 o'clock is the even, and then we have when the sun goes completely below the horizon, that's another evening. So we now have about 6 o'clock. So our times now here is 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock p.m., the 11th hour, and then we have even. Now at even now, we're now into another day.
Right. 12 hours.
Okay? This is another day. Watch how important this is when this plays out in the scripture. So when the even was come, Yehovah of the vineyard said unto his steward, Call the laborers. So you see where we're at now. It's now, the work is complete. All right? Now the husband is here, and he's going to now look at what the laborer has done through these very pivotal times here. It's now another day. This is now a new beginning. Let's see how the laborers are behaving. And when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that he should have received more, and likewise received every man a penny. And when they had received it, they murmured against the good man of the house, saying, These lads have wrought but 1 hour. Okay? These guys came in between 5 and 6. Right? Between 5 and 6 they came in, just roughly now, just roughly. Because obviously, you know, the way that Hebrew time ran is that there was no such thing as 5 minutes after 5, 10 minutes after 5. They didn't run time like that. All right? It just wasn't done that way. Saying, These lads have wrought but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which have borne the burden in the heat of the day. But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I did or do thee no wrong. Didst thou not agree with me for a penny? Take that thine is, and go thy way. I will give unto this last even as unto thee. It is not lawful for me to do what I will, but my own. Is thine eye evil because I am good? So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many shall be called, but few chosen. All right? That's what's going to happen. I can guarantee this. I know this for a fact. Every single brother and sister in here was called. I know that for a fact. Now, this is where it gets to be a little bit complicated at now. All right? Whether you were chosen or not. Okay? Myself included. All right? Because the scripture says, he that endureth unto the end shall be saved. Because what's going to happen now in this ministry here, again, there's going to be things that where you have to draw the line at. Each and every one of us. There's going to come a point where you're going to have to draw the line. And there's going to be some that's going to come in the late hour, and they're going to take your place. Because what's happening now is that the Father, he's expecting you to be that pillar. As young brothers and sisters are coming in, you're supposed to be that strength. But something is going to happen in each and every one of your lives here. You're going to have to make that ultimate decision. The way that the Messiah had to make that ultimate decision, the way that Ezekiel had to make that ultimate decision, Jeremiah, Hosea, all of them had to make that ultimate decision. There was a man, the scriptures talk about, he was very rich. Very rich. He said he followed all of the commandments from his youth on up. Okay? He gave to the poor and all of that stuff like that. The Messiah said, listen, so everything that you had given to the poor and everything like that, it was a hard thing for the man to receive and everything like that. And he left off and followed the Messiah. He couldn't do it. This is the reason why, again, never let anybody put you in a box, all right, and say that, listen, you know what, you can't do this and you can't do that. What you want to do in this Torah walk here, you want to make sure that you make yourself available for anything that the Messiah has you to do. Because you don't know what that is. Like I tell my Isha and I tell people that I come across, if you can't be used in this walk, you're useless. It's just as simple as that. If you can't be used, you're useless to this body here. All right? Very, very important. You got something, Mikey?
Well, I look at it, even with Moses and Aaron, Moses felt, he didn't have what it takes, but if you don't have it, he'll quit you with it.
Right.
And that's what you have to look at. If you don't have it, he'll give it to you. So
Exactly.
there is no excuse.
Exactly.
Whether you want to do it or not, that's the excuse.
I read the scriptures and I see, and we're going to go into this, when they were inspecting the land, all right, on the 10th day, for 4 days, the Messiah went through all types of scrutiny, and we're going to go through this when we start to talk about the feast days and everything like that, because the scriptures is very detailed. When you go to Matthew, the 21st chapter, that's the first day of inspection. They start to inspect the land. And you see all of the torture and everything that the Messiah went through, and then now all of a sudden you said, listen, you know what, I can't do this and I can't do that. After everything that the Messiah went through, you can turn around and say, listen, you know what, I can't do this and I can't do that. I don't know. You can't be used in this walk, you're useless. It's just as simple as that, because what's happening now is that the nation of Israel is in distress. What are you going to do? As a student, becoming a Talmid or a Talmidah is a big responsibility. And not everybody is up to this big responsibility here. This is the reason why a lot of brothers and sisters fall off. All right? No names need to be mentioned, but there was a sister that she was having some issues with the pagan days. And we keep it clean and everything like that. So this particular sister here, she's at work. They're getting the rest of them, they're getting flowers and candy and cookies and all that other stuff and all that everything like that. So the end of the night came and everything like that. The gentleman wanted to be intimate and everything like that. She was like, nah, we're not doing anything because I didn't get any cookies and candy and all that other stuff. And so guy. He actually went out and bought some cookies and candies and things like that so he could actually rebuild this relationship with his woman. A pagan day.
Wow.
All right, so again, this walk here is a very serious walk here, and we don't want to deviate to the left and to the right, because at that very moment, I mean, just knowing my luck, I mean, if I was to do something like that, that's when the show will close right then and there. You'll catch me red-handed. I mean, the way that my luck is, you know, you'll find me right in the store with Halloween candy, you know, right then and there. That's how my luck runs. Okay, so we just want to make sure that we're consistent in the walk, and again, when you really get down to it, just look at yourselves and look at everything that's around you. Not everybody wants to do this. They really don't want to do this, and you're going to have to cut that line somewhere so that you can keep things running in the right direction for you. We'll read down just a little bit more. Verse 17, the Messiah going up to Jerusalem took his 12 disciples apart in the way and said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests and unto the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death. Verse 19, and they shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify him, and on the third day he shall rise again. Therefore came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, What wilt thou? She said unto them, Grant that that my two sons may sit the one on the right and the other on the left in thy kingdom. But the Messiah answered and said, You know not what you ask. All right? You know not what you ask. Listen how he responds to him now. Are you able to drink of the cup that I should drink of? That's a heavy, heavy burden. Heavy. Because remember, even with the 12 disciples, after everything that they saw the Messiah do, it said, strike the shepherd and the sheep is going to be scattered.
Right.
Yeah. And so everybody, they broke camp. So again, this walk here is a very serious walk. It's like no other walk. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Peter denied the Messiah 3 times.
One that foul that I was closed up there,
Yeah, exactly. So this really tells us how serious this walk is here. Okay, let's go back here to Luke, the 19th chapter. Luke, the 19th chapter. Anybody have any questions? Please, by all means, ask the question. Luke, the 19th chapter. I'm going to ask some more questions. I really want everybody to understand what this whole thing is about, so that there's no mistakes. And I believe the more we're able to see and understand these parables here, it'll give us a better understanding of how to look at the scriptures. Verse 37. Excuse me, I'm going to start with verse... I went up 27. 28. And when he had thus spoken, he went before ascending up to Jerusalem, and it came to pass when he was come near to Jerusalem to Bethpage. All right, the word Bethpage. I'm going to speed it up here a little bit. The word Bethpage again. We have to look at every Hebrew word and make sure that we understand what's going on. The word Bethpage means house of unripe figs. All right. We had talked about figs before in Genesis, but we talked about Adam and Eve, or Adam and Korah, there when they took from this tree, and this tree represented...
You said house of
unripe figs. Yeah, unripe figs. And again, unripe figs means that there's no harvest. So the Messiah now goes to Jerusalem, all right, and he goes to the city of Bethpage, a city of unripe fruits, or unripe figs, which this is now describing now the nature of Yashra'al at that time. All right, unripe figs. And then it says, and Bethany. The word Bethany means misery. Misery. And again, these are all the characteristics of the nation of Yashra'al at this time. All right? And at the mount called the Mount of Olives, we know the whole thing about the Mount of Olives, and the word olives, olives were used to anoint. It is also making a reference to the Messiah. We know the whole situation where the Messiah goes up to the Garden of Gethsemane, and where now he prays 3 times. We'll go through it, all right? So again, these numbers are they're there. When we begin to look at the grammatical numbers that's going on in the scriptures here, it's going to all fall into play. All fall into play. And he went to the Mount of Olives, and he sent 2 of his disciples. The 2 disciples are going to represent a witness, all right? So these 2 disciples are going to be this witness in Jerusalem, saying, "Go you into the village over against you, in the which at your entering you shall find a colt tied, whether yet never man, loose him and bring him hither." To get a better understanding, let's go to the book of Matthew, the 20th chapter. We're going to come back to that too, but there's something I want to share. We're going to go to verse 1, 21 and 1. Yes, 21 and 1. It says, now, because what's going on in Matthew, the 21st chapter, the same thing that's going on in Luke, the 19th chapter. And when they drew near into Jerusalem, they came to Bethpage, and to the Mount of Olives, and sent Yashra'al 2 disciples, saying unto them, "Go into the village over against you, and straightway you shall find an ass tied, and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them unto me." First thing I wanted to do now is look at what's going on now. What's going on here with this ass that's tied, and she has a colt with her. The Messiah sends 2 disciples. It's Talmid. There's an ass and there's a colt tied. The Messiah tells his disciples to loose them. All right? The Hebrew word we're going to have there is noose, which means to set free. All right? So you now have these 2 beasts of burden. 2 beasts of burden now, and we're talking about the nature of the nation of Israel, Bethpage, okay, and Bethany. We're talking about now the nature of what's going on actually with both northern and southern kingdom. Now, when he's telling his 2 disciples now to loose these asses, watch what's going to happen. And again, now an ass is a beast of burden. Sure.
I'm looking at 2 King James versions, and you say a colt, but I don't see the ass nowhere in there.
Okay, you went in Matthew,
Hebrew?
Matthew the 21st chapter?
No. I'm still back at Luke 9 and 30.
Right, exactly. That's the reason why I went, back and forth to try to give us a little bit more on what's going on here.
You said 20 and 30, 21 and 30?
Yeah, 21
and 1.
Yeah, 21 and 1 here. And if any man say aught unto you, you shall say, Yahuwah hath need of them, and straightway he will send them. An ass, all right? To show now that this is referencing now the nation of Yashra'al, let's go to the book of Isaiah. Everybody knows this scripture. I'm going to show you how now this is actually making a reference to the nation of Yashra'al. Again, everything is dealing in twos, in pairs here. Another one too. It says, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Yashra'al of Israel do not know, my people do not consider." So this is going to be my argument here. We have Yeshayahu, who's speaking in the words of the Father, of Yahuwah. He's comparing the nation of Yashra'al to an ox and to an ass. Now the difference, I mean, an ass here now is that you can beat an ass, you can beat him, and you can beat him, but eventually he will find his way home. But the nation of Yashra'al, even to this day, collectively as a people, you can't find our way home. All right, so now what we see now, these two beasts of burden, they're now tied. And the Messiah sends two disciples to let loose these two animals here who are being described in the book of Isaiah. These are references now to the nation of Yashra'al to set them free. The Messiah came, okay, to redeem the house of Israel. But remember now, it even talked about in the scriptures where he said, listen, you know what? Things have gotten so bad, and the nation of Yashra'al didn't understand the redemptive role of the Messiah. He said, this day, the kingdom is going to be shut up from you. Because the nation of Yashra'al didn't understand the time of her visitation. Didn't understand it. And so again, when we begin to look at parables, and we see these two animals now here, okay, tied up, and he sends his disciples to loose them. That was an example there, or a parable, that you're now free. Because anything that's chained up is in captivity, is bound. Watch how this even plays out a little bit more. We're going to go to the book of Shemot, the 13th chapter. We're talking about redemption here. Yeah, Exodus, excuse me, Exodus.
Put the Greek on it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because everybody don't know what it is.
Already out help. Let him ask. Let him ask what book that is. Where you said Shemot, where?
The 13th chapter.
That's how you did us when we started teaching us. You already tell you what book it is. Now you ain't helping people.
Yeah, this word redeem, die, which means to ransom, is going to be very important. Watch this now. In verse 11, it says, and it shall be when Yahuwah shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore unto thee, and to thy father, and shall give it to thee, thou shalt set apart unto Yahuwah all that open the matrix. And every firstling that cometh of a beast, which thou hast, the male should be Yahuwah's. Verse 13. And every firstling of an ass. We just talked about a colt and an ass. Watch what happens with an ass. Alright? And every firstling of an ass, thou shalt redeem with a lamb. With a lamb. The Messiah is the lamb. He sends two disciples to let free the colt and the ass that was already tied. They were bound. So, but the culture now, the firstling of an ass, you're supposed to break his neck, okay, because it should be redeemed with the lamb. We're going to read it, okay? And every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with the lamb, and if thou shalt not redeem it, then thou shalt break his neck, and all the firstborn of the man among thy children thou shalt redeem. So we see now, again, the redemptive role of the Messiah through parables and through prophetic shadow pictures, how the Messiah is actually redeeming this ass here, okay? And now we're going to find out something else that's going to happen here. Okay, the plot even gets thicker.
That was saying break the neck of the sheep, right?
Yeah, we have, exactly. Verse 13, and every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. So, an ass is going to be redeemed with a lamb. Now, if you're not going to do that now, you're supposed to break the lamb's neck for the life of the ass.
Okay, now how would you redeem it before if you was not to break the neck? Would you use that like a sacrifice or what?
Now,
that's what I'm trying to boil down to. When it says, and every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem it with a lamb. Now, how do you redeem it with that lamb? What procedure you take? What steps you take? That's what I'm trying to understand.
just talking about right here, not talking about prophetic shadow pictures, right? Just right here.
Before you get up to the point that you're supposed to break his neck, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the word redeemed.
Are they saying right here that's the only way?
Yeah, because the word redeemed, the Hebrew word is padah, which means when something is being redeemed, you're setting it free, you're giving it liberty to go. is now subject to death.
Right.
The firstling of an ass is subject to death.
Okay.
It can only be redeemed or saved by a lamb. No, by a lamb.
Okay, by a lamb, but I'm saying to break his neck, though. This is what I'm saying right here.
Uh-huh.
Let me go back to it. And every firstling of an ass, thou shalt redeem it with a lamb.
Uh-huh.
And if thou wilt not redeem it,
Right.
then shalt thou break his neck.
Exactly.
What are you doing? Not by not. I mean, how are you not redeeming? What is that? What is it that they were doing if they was not to break the neck? That they would not be redeeming?
Well, that's what they were supposed to do.
Okay.
They were supposed to
It
now.
sounds like it's an option here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it is.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I put a word down now, if. Now, if you don't now redeem it with the lamb, you're now supposed to break that ass's neck.
Okay.
You break his neck. But what we have here now is that this particular colt, or this ass here,
Right.
his neck is not broken. It's being redeemed by a lamb.
Right.
But if you, yeah, but if,
sacrificial lamb.
right,
Like,
exactly, right. So now, we see now in Matthew, the 21st chapter, is that, we're going to show here is that this ass here was a firstborn.
Okay.
It was a firstborn. And what's happening now is that the Messiah is actually redeeming this ass, because the Messiah he's that lamb, he's that redemptive role here in the scriptures here. Hold on 1 second. There was a scripture also that I'm looking for. I believe it was in the book of Talmid.
Just pick up a little bit on that.
Sure.
I think what confusing a little bit is the schoolmaster was in play beforehand. So you gotta think these people know the law,
Right.
but they raised up in it. So they got an understanding of the protocol.
Right.
So when you read it, in order to validate that this is the Messiah, gonna be doing these things, it should be like strange terms, because that's why he went earlier about Caiaphas. He said it's necessary that one man should die for the nations.
Right.
By him making that statement, his audience, he was high priest.
Right.
His audience were well aware, but they just wasn't saying, probably what they were just trying to validate was the particular one.
Right.
He was in. So your schoolmaster were there, so you can't just say, I was ignorant, didn't know the ways of the Most High. So by the time you get to that, you should have understood that they will understand that process. That language would have been, the lamb is always without spot or blemish,
Right.
without sin.
Right.
Okay, the ad, like he's saying, stubborn, hard-headed, Moses, all day long, sitting before me on hard-headed, not hear the word. So you see that process, it's just him cleaning it up now, because everybody by now, you know if you sin, the way to sin is there. So,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna remove it from you now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just add. They all go together.
Right, exactly. We're going to show some more parallels here between the colt and the ass here. We're going to go to the book of Talmid with the book of Psalms 32. I don't want to beat this over the head, but I just want to make sure that it is crystal clear. This is Psalms, the 32nd chapter, verses 8 and 10. I will instruct thee, okay? I will instruct thee and teach thee the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. Watch what's going on in verse 9. He's telling the nation of Yashra'al, be not as the horse or as the mule, which hath no understanding, whose mouth must be held in with bit and bridle, lest they come near unto thee. And so now we have a situation with this young ass here now. Never a man rode this beast before. Never. This beast of burden here, never has a man rode this beast. And when we begin to even look at, just like my brother here, right, because he's good with the whole thing with the agriculture, right, because he knew about the winnow fan and breaking that whole thing. So this is an agricultural man here. So he already knows now the whole process with the stubbornness of an ass, okay. This particular ass here now is described in the nation of Yashra'al. Nobody has written her before, and it even makes mention in the book of Hosea about how Ephraim here was considered like an animal that has never been chastised before. We're going to go to that and show some scriptures on that. I want to go to the book of Proverbs 26 and 3, and we'll leave it alone and go back with the rest of the scripture. Proverbs 26:3. It says, a whip for a horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. Okay, so again, this is all making a reference to the nation of Yashra'al, and we're going to finish this up right quick, all right? Matthew, the 20th chapter. I just want to show the parallels, what's going on here with this ass and this colt here.
21.
Yes, 21. And when they drew near into Jerusalem, they would come to Bethpage, okay, the city of misery, unto the Mount of Olives. Then sent the Messiah 2 disciples, which were the witness, saying unto them, go into the village over against you, and straightway you shall find an ass tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them unto me. And any man say aught unto you, you shall say, the master had need of them, and straightway he will send them. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying. So again, everything that's going on in verses 1 through 3, verse 4 is telling you now that was all a parable. It's a parable. Just to make sure that you was wow, it's not about just bringing up all this other stuff with animals and all this other stuff and making a reference to the nation of Yashra'al. But I just wanted to show now, when we begin to read now, everything that was happening in verses 1, 2, and 3 was a parable. Okay? It literally happened, but also we had to see the spiritual applications behind this. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, tell you the daughters of Zion, okay, the daughter of Zion, behold, thy king cometh unto you, meek and sitting upon an ass, and a colt the foal of an ass. And the disciples went and did as the Messiah had commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on their clothes. Now, that word clothes is going to be very, very important, because you're talking about they're putting their clothes on this ass. This is a beast of burden. This animal has never carried any burdens before. All right, it's a firstborn. It was redeemed by the Lamb. We now have the Messiah is going to now ride this beast of burden. This beast of burden now represents the nation of Yashra'al. All right. Now, notice now how it doesn't say anything about this beast being a wild beast anymore, because now that the Messiah is on the beast now, this is now comforting now to the ass here. Now the colt comes with the ass, and the reason why the colt comes with the ass, anybody that's familiar with agriculture, what happens now is that you don't want to separate them. Okay, because as long as the mother's there, just might pacify, the beast a little bit, because it's a young beast. But when we see now the clothes being put upon this beast of burden here, the clothes is going to represent a covering. Okay, the clothes represents a covering, and we're going to show in scriptures here at another point now, when this begins to happen, when the Messiah goes into Jerusalem, this is happening on the 10th day. The 10th day, all right? 4 days prior to his death, because it talks about in Exodus, the 12th chapter, that the Messiah is going to be put to death on the 14th, between the 2 evenings. So from the 10th to the 14th now, this is talking about the inspection of the Lamb. We'll go to it a little bit more in detail, but what's happening now is that there's a chronological order to everything that's going on in the scriptures. Chronological. That way there's no problems. The Messiah goes into Jerusalem. Now they put their clothes on this beast of burden, and you can go to the Strong's number 2440, and there's another one, 2046, where it talks about the Hebrew word for garment is the word hamishan, H-I-M-A-T-I-O-N, and it's a garment of any sort. And I just want to go to Matthew 9:16 for 1 second. Matthew 9:16. I just want to make sure that everything is tied nice and tight here. When we all know the scripture, so this is how this works. Clothing represents a covering where you can no longer see the nakedness. In the garden, we have a situation where the Father actually now gives Adam and Eve clothing, okay, because they try to cover their own sins. At the time of the Messiah's ministry, the nation of Yashra'al, they were in misery, and they were like unripe fruits. So by taking off the clothes, okay, and putting it upon the ass, and the Messiah actually sitting on the ass now, it's like the Messiah is now, he's covering their sins. And the reason why we have these covering this sense because it's happening on the 10th. The number 10 is very important because it represents atonement. In the 7th month and the 10th day, we have the Day of Atonement. The Messiah rises in Jerusalem on the 10th day of the month of Abib, in preparation now for the death that's going to happen on the 14th. Anybody? We all together here?
Yeah.
Because it's a big puzzle, and it's our responsibility to put the pieces together. It all fits. This is the 10th day the Messiah. We're going to show that it's the 10th day. Watch this. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment. The Messiah came to give you a new garment. The scriptures talk about, listen, you know what? We don't want to be in a situation at the wedding where you don't have on the right apparel, the right garment, the right clothing. Because it's going to come to the point where the Messiah is going to say, listen, you know what? How did you get here? To this wedding here. How did you get here? You don't have on the right garment. Where's your wedding gown at? You have on an old garment, okay? And the old garment is representing your ways of the world. What I'm asking for you to do now is to come back and to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. And when you do that, when you take off the old clothing now, the Messiah is going to give you a new clothing, and that's going to be the apparel for a bride. And so this is the reason why it says now, no man putteth a piece of new cloth on an old garment. You can't do that. You're either going to walk the Torah or you're going to walk the ways of the world. You can't take now, no man putteth a piece of new cloth on an old garment. For that which is put to it, filleth it up, take it from the garment, and the rent is made worse. And then it talks about, in verse 17, another parable. Neither do men put new wine in an old bottle. It's the same thing. The wine is going to represent two things. You can now look at the wine representing the blood of the Messiah. You can look at wine also as philosophy. This new wine that we're getting here now, okay, is the Torah. It's understanding the redemptive role of the Messiah. Because the scripture also talks about the wine or the wrath that's about Babylon. Remember it talked about that? And the cup which she has filled into her double? Yep. So that's also another wine. But this new wine again is representing the Torah. Watch this again. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break. So you're going to have to fully detox all the ill teachings that you've gotten before. Become a student. Become a student now, because again, you can't put new wine in an old bottle. You can't keep holding on to the ways of the world. You put new wine in new bottles. The new bottle is going to represent you as a new creature. And so now the Messiah can now pour out the new wine into the new bottle. You're now a new creature again. So we got to again understand these parables because it's all there. We can't miss. We really, really can't miss. That's going to be about it. Let me just finish up Matthew on the 20th chapter. A couple more verses here and we're done. We're going to be done. Tell the daughters of Zion, the nation of Yashra'al, behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He's coming meek. He's sitting on an ass, and a colt of the foal of an ass. And the disciples went and did as the Messiah commanded them. And they brought the ass and the colt and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a great multitude spread their garments in the way. So again, we have this thing with garments again. They spread their garments in the way. Others cut down branches from the trees and strayed them in the way. And the multitudes that went before, and they followed, cried, saying, Hosanna, which means praise Yahuwah, the son of Dawood. Blessed is he, the Messiah, that cometh in the name of Yahuwah, Hosanna in the highest. And when he was come to Jerusalem, all the cities was moved, saying, what saying is this? And the multitude said, this is Yashra'al, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. And the Messiah went into the temple of Elohim and cast out all of them that sold and brought in the temple, and withdrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. Now, verse 12, there's a whole lot that's going on there, okay, but I'm going to have to leave it there. But this actually now is the beginning process where he's now beginning to clean the Father's house in preparation now for his death and execution. I promise that this is the last one because I wanted to show, this Luke the 19th chapter, that the Messiah, this is actually the 19th, see the 14th, the 10th, where the Messiah actually rides in, we actually rides in to Jerusalem. Verse 37, and when he was come near, even at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise Elohim with a loud voice for the almighty works they have seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of Yahuwah, peace in Shamayim, or in heaven, and esteem in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these shall hold their peace, the stones would even cry out. And when he was come near he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, this is talking about redemption now, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this day, this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now are hid from thy eyes. For the day shall come upon thee, that thy enemy shall cast a trench about thee, and cast thee round about thee in every city, in every side. And they shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone with another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. And again, I talked about the 10th. Messiah is making his grand entry into Jerusalem on the 10th. When you look at the festivals of Yahuwah, on the 7th month, the 10th day, this is the day of Talmid. This is the 49th year. And we know that the nation of Yashra'al was redeemed out of bondage in Egypt during the Passover, during the Jubilee year. The Messiah came to redeem the nation of Israel at this point here now. It was a Jubilee year, but Israel didn't understand the redemptive role of the Messiah, and so their eyes were now closed because the nation of Israel didn't understand the visitation. When you look up the word visitation means redemption. It's the same word, padah. It's talking about the Jubilee year. And this is the reason why we say that the nation of Yashra'al will also, in the latter days, be redeemed in a Jubilee year. But again, the format is this of the book of Leviticus, the 25th chapter, is that the shofar is to be blown in the 49th year, the 7th month, the 10th day. All right? And then in the month of Abib now, we have now the redemption of the nation of Yashra'al, when they were actually taken out of Egypt. All right? So that's just a quick little snippet, but we're going to definitely go into detail where we're going to talk about a little bit later from the first day, what happened on the first day, all the way down to the 15th to his death and resurrection. Outline is all out there in the scriptures. I mean, it's just outlined. Perfect. It talks about the 70-week ministry of the Messiah. It's all there from the baptism into the 24 courses of Abijah. It's all outlined. We can't miss it. All right, we want to make sure. All right, if anybody was to test us with anything, the Messiah is talked about from the beginning to the end. All right, and
what was that last one you were reading from?
This was the book of Luke, the 19th. Right, 19. I read 41 to 44, where Israel didn't understand the time of their visitation. That word visitation there is going to bring you to the word redemption or the deliverance. Yeah, so that's. What's that?
You said Luke what?
21.
21, right?
Yes, 21.
Yeah,
verse 21. 41 to 45. 44 actually talks about he was going to now shut the eyes of the nation of Yashra'al because he didn't understand their visitation.
Now, can that time too relate to, because I heard you say it was a friction, Titus in 70 AD?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why he looked over the city because he knew they were supposed to happen.
Yes, you know, lay you even with the ground. I mean, laying you even with the ground. We know what that means. You know, he's going to be death in Israel. Luke 14, 26 and 27. me shut this down. These two last verses. The book of Luke, the 14th chapter, verses 26, 27. This is the walk of a Talmid, student to Talmid. It says, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother, and we're going to have to look into this word hate. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sister, you and your own life also, he cannot be my disciple. So these are some of the prerequisites to become a disciple. And whosoever do not bear his cross to come after me cannot be my disciple. Matthew 28:19 is the last one. 28:19.
The cross, or is somebody suffering?
Yeah. This is not the regular walk here. This is something a little bit different. 28:19. The responsibility of a Talmid or Talmida is a female. You're supposed to go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the set-apart Spirit. All right. So that's going to be it. I mean, if anybody have any questions, I'm trying to speed things up a little bit, but there's so much more to this. We'll be here all night, but I'm going to shut it down for now. We can pick up again a little bit later. But being a student to a Talmid is very, very important.
We need to get to a class and that's the praise.
Absolutely. Hallelujah.